Damian Marley has always been known as Bob Marley's youngest son, but he's never said much about what that really meant. Until now, Damian is finally opening up about his father's absence, his mother's strength, and the truth behind growing up in the shadow of a legend. From admitting that his musical inspiration was not his father, to revealing how his mother, Cindy Breakspear, made sure he never felt abandoned. Damian Marley finally breaks silence on Bob Marley. Bob Marley passed away over 30 years ago, but remains a renowned reggae legend whose music, from his conscious lyrics and revolutionary anthems, is deeply rooted in Jamaican culture and radiates throughout the works of the generations that followed. And his legacy didn't stop with him. His children have carried his flame, especially his youngest son, Damian Marley. But even as Damian has made a name for himself, not everyone in Jamaica sees him the same way. Some criticize him, calling him an uptown Browning, a name used to describe light-skinned Jamaicans from wealthier neighborhoods, saying he doesn't have the street credibility that many believe is essential for true reggae artists. Damian Robert Nesta Marley was born on July 21, 1978. He is the youngest of Bob Marley's children and the only child born to Bob and Cindy Breakspear. Cindy was a Jamaican jazz singer and had once been crowned Miss World in 1976. Like several of Bob's children, Damian was born outside of marriage. At the time, Bob was married to singer Rita Marley, but he fathered children with different women during his life. When Damian was born, Bob wasn't there. He was away on tour. Breakspear and Marley met when she lived at 56 Hope Road in Kingston with her older brother. This address would become more than just a place to stay. It was where her life would change forever. Behind their building, a band rehearsed daily. That band was none other than the Wailers, led by the rising reggae icon, Bob Marley. Cindy recalled those early moments in a 2019 interview. She said, "In the comings and goings, we started chatting here and there, the conversations became longer, sparks started to fly, and we became romantically involved." At the time, Bob Marley was standing on the edge of global stardom. She continued saying, "When I met him and began to know him, he was on the brink of stardom." Their relationship grew, and their lives began to intertwine. One important memory still stands out for Cindy. When she received the life-changing phone call telling her she'd be competing in the 1976 Miss World pageant, she was with Bob Marley. They were together at Essex House in New York City. It was a moment of excitement and possibility, one that would soon lead to her being crowned Miss World. Despite their growing connection, Marley wasn't there when their son Damian was born. At the time, he was on tour busy bringing reggae to the world stage. While Cindy became known for her beauty and grace, she also had a passion for creativity. She had always loved to draw and paint, and that passion later found a new path. Back in Jamaica, she was approached by Donna Kaur, wife of Cat Kaur from the band Third World. Together, they started a small jewelry business called Untold Craft. They used shells and other natural materials to make unique handmade pieces. Untold Craft took off in a big way. At its peak, their jewelry reached far beyond Jamaica, appearing in stores like Bloomingdale's, gracing the runways in Paris, and spreading across 16 locations in the Caribbean. According to Cindy, Bob Marley supported their business. He sent materials from England and Australia, and even supplied power tools to help with the work. Still, some rumors painted a different picture. Some stories claimed that Marley had poured huge sums of money into the business to get it started. Cindy strongly disagreed with that. She said, "It's like Untold Craft that the startup money for that was some hundreds and thousands of dollars. Rubbish. We started Untold Craft with $2,500, Donna Kaur and I. That was the shell capital that we started the company with. It seemed like a lot of money at the time, but certainly nowhere near what has been written. I think it was in the Don Taylor book." Damian's name has a story of its own. After watching the movie Damien Omen the Sen, which is about the Antichrist, Bob became unhappy about it. As a devout Rastafarian, he felt the name Damian had dark and troubling meanings. While he was in Germany, and as his health was declining, one of his final wishes was to have his son's name changed. He said, "Damian being a devil, it was inappropriate for him as a Rastafarian to have a child with that name." And so, his son's name was changed from Damian to Damian. At just 13 years old, Damian Marley stepped into music with a group called The Shepherds. It wasn't just any group. The lineup included the daughter of reggae singer Freddie McGregor and the son of Cat Kaur from the legendary band Third World. Together, they made early waves in the local scene and even got the chance to perform at the '92 Reggae Sunsplash Festival. But like many teenage bands, the group didn't last. By the early '90s, the Shepherds had broken up, and Damian decided to go solo. Starting out on his own, he had the support of his father's label, Tough Gong, which helped him release his debut album Mr. Marley in '96. The album turned heads, not just because it came from Bob Marley's son, but because Damian wasn't singing in the traditional reggae style. Instead, he was DJing, a vocal style more associated with dancehall than roots reggae. It was unexpected, and for some fans of the Marley legacy, it took time to adjust. However, the truth is that Damian wasn't trying to follow his father's exact path. He was creating his own. His second album, Halfway Tree, told that story even more clearly. The title itself had a personal meaning. Damian once explained that his mother, Cindy Breakspear, came from an upper-class background, while his father, Bob Marley, came from humble beginnings. He saw himself as a tree halfway in between the rich world and the poor world. That in-between space, both in life and music, shaped his identity. The album title also connects to a real place in Kingston Halfway Tree, a busy cultural center and landmark known for its iconic clock tower, which stands near where an old cotton tree once grew. That clock tower even appears on the album cover, standing behind Damian as a symbol of his roots and journey. Halfway Tree was released on September 11, 2001, and it made a strong impact. The album went on to win the 2002 Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album. It was co-produced by Damian and his older brother Stephen Marley, who had also worked on Mr. Marley. With this second album, Damian was planting himself firmly in the reggae world with his own sound and message. Damian Marley took things to a whole new level with the release of his third studio album, Welcome to Jam Rock. It dropped on September 12, 2005 in the United States and a day later in the United Kingdom. In its first week, the album sold 86,000 copies, and by the time the dust settled, it had gone gold, selling over 500,000 copies in the US alone. At the center of the album's success was the title track, Welcome to Jam Rock. Co-written and produced by Damian's half-brother, Stephen Marley, the song became a bold anthem that sparked both praise and controversy. Built on a classic rhythm originally produced by Sly and Robbie for Ini Kamoze some 20 years earlier, the track delivered a gritty, unfiltered view of Jamaica, highlighting issues like poverty, political unrest, and violent crime. While some Jamaicans felt the song portrayed the island in a negative light, many others saw it as a raw and honest reflection of reality. Dr. Clinton Hutton, a professor at the University of the West Indies, offered a deeper interpretation. He said the song used powerful symbols of inner-city life alienation, despair, prejudice, and hope to force listeners to open their eyes to the real Jamaica. He said, "And still some of us don't want to hear and to look and say enough is enough." Despite the controversy, or perhaps because of it, Welcome to Jam Rock found global success. It climbed to number 13 on the UK singles chart and reached number 55 on the US Billboard Hot 100. Its impact was lasting. Rolling Stone even listed it as number 100 on their top 100 songs of the decade. However, Welcome to Jam Rock wasn't just about one song. The album also featured other standout tracks that showed Damian's range and message. The Master Has Come Back carried spiritual energy, while Road to Zion, featuring rapper Nas, brought a deep, introspective mood with its blend of hip-hop and reggae. Khaki Suit, with dancehall heavyweights Bounty Killer and Ika Mouse, added even more power to the project. At the 2006 Grammy Awards, Damian Marley made history. He didn't just win one Grammy, he walked away with two. Welcome to Jam Rock earned him the award for Best Reggae Album and also Best Urban Alternative Performance, making him the only Jamaican reggae artist to win two Grammys on the same night. It was a proud moment, not just for Damian, but for Jamaican music as a whole. No other reggae artist had ever taken home a Grammy in the urban alternative category before him. 2 years later, in 2008, Damian's unique sound caught the attention of global pop star Mariah Carey. She featured him on her album Ease MC2 on a track titled Cruise Control. Even though the collaboration was unexpected, it showed how far Damian's influence had reached, crossing genres and blending cultures. In early 2009, at the Grammy Awards, news broke that Damian Marley was working on something even more ambitious, a full collaborative album with rapper Nas. Speaking to MTV, Nas revealed their plans. "Right now, I'll tell you first, I'm working on an album with Damian Marley. We're trying to build some schools in Africa with this one, and trying to build empowerment. We're trying to show love and stuff with this album. So the record's all about really the hood in Africa also as well." That project would become Distant Relatives, released on May 17th, 2010. The album's name wasn't just about the bond between the two artists. It was also about something much deeper, their shared African heritage. Both Nas and Damian wanted the music to reflect that connection, not just through lyrics, but in the sounds, instruments, and rhythms they used. The songs speak about history, struggle, identity, and hope. The two had worked together before on Road to Zion, a standout track from Welcome to Jamrock. But Distant Relatives was a full journey. It mixed Damian's reggae and dub rock with Nas' lyrical flow from the streets of New York. Much of the album was produced by Damian and his brother Stephen Marley, keeping the sound authentic and rich in both reggae and hip-hop roots. What made the album even more meaningful was its purpose. All the proceeds from Distant Relatives were promised to go toward building schools in the Congo, a country long affected by war and poverty. For Damian Marley, music had never just been about charts or fame. It had always been about message, mission, and making real change. When Distant Relatives was released, it debuted at number 5 on the US Billboard 200 chart, selling 57,000 copies in its first week. For Nas, this marked his 10th time landing in the top 10. For Damian Marley, it was his second. On Billboard's genre-specific charts, Distant Relatives performed even better. It entered at number 1 on the R&B hip-hop albums chart, the rap albums chart, and the reggae albums chart. This kind of cross-genre success showed just how unique the project was. It wasn't limited to one type of audience. The messages and music reached people from all sides. Even outside of the United States, the album made waves. It entered the European Top 100 albums at number 33. In the United Kingdom, it debuted at number 30 on the UK Albums Chart and landed at number 4 on the R&B Albums Chart. In Canada, it hit number 9, and in Germany, it reached number 38. These numbers prove that Distant Relatives wasn't just a local or regional success. It was a global conversation starter, bringing together fans of reggae, hip-hop, and conscious music from all around the world. The first single from the album, As We Enter, fast-paced back-and-forth delivery between Nas and Damian immediately caught people's attention. It peaked at number 10 on the iTunes hip-hop rap charts and climbed to number 41 on the iTunes music charts. In the UK, it debuted at number 39 on the singles chart. Later that year, the message behind Distant Relatives reached even further. At a sold-out panel discussion hosted by National Geographic, Damian Marley, Stephen Marley, and Nas joined other reggae and hip-hop artists to talk about the African diaspora and how it influences music. They shared their thoughts on history, identity, and the responsibility that comes with being artists with a global voice. Damian didn't just stop with Distant Relatives. The formation of the band Super Heavy was one of music's best-kept secrets until May 2011. On the 20th of that month, legendary English rocker Mick Jagger, best known as the lead singer of the Rolling Stones, made the surprise announcement. A new supergroup was born. But the idea didn't start with Jagger. It came from British musician and producer Dave Stewart. While staying at his home in St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica, Stewart was surrounded by the sounds of reggae, nature, and Caribbean rhythms drifting through the air. Those sounds sparked something in him. He imagined a new kind of music, one that mixed reggae and rock with the rich cinematic feel of Indian orchestras. Stewart shared the idea with Jagger, and they both agreed it could be something special. Since they both admired Indian music, they invited legendary Indian composer A.R. Rahman to join. To complete the lineup, they brought in soulful British singer Joss Stone and reggae artist Damian Marley. Even though they officially announced the group in 2011, Super Heavy had already been working behind closed doors for years. They started recording their debut album back in early 2009 at a studio in Los Angeles. Over time, they recorded an incredible 35 hours of music. On June 30th, 2011, they gave an exclusive preview of the album at the famous Jim Henson Studios in Los Angeles. where they played 8 of their tracks for a select audience. Their first single, Miracle Worker, dropped on iTunes on July 7, 2011. It was a reggae-influenced song led by Marley, Stone, and Jagger. Though it only reached number 195 on the UK singles chart, the song introduced listeners to the unique sound of Super Heavy. The music video for Miracle Worker was released a month later on YouTube. Directed by Dave Stewart and shot at Paramount Studios in Los Angeles, it featured all 5 band members together, each bringing their own style to the screen. The second single from the album was something completely different. It was titled Satyameva Jayate, a Sanskrit phrase meaning truth alone triumphs, and also India's national motto. It was released on August 9, 2011, just days before India's Independence Day. The song was composed by Rahman to have an Indian feel, and Jagger took a bold step by singing in Sanskrit. Stewart, Stone, and Marley were also part of the track. It premiered exclusively on Radio Mirchi 98.3 FM, reaching 22 cities across India. At the same time, the song and album were promoted by Tata Docomo, helping spread the music even further across mass media. Another track from the album, Beautiful People, found its own success, reaching number 64 on the Dutch Single Top 100 chart. While Super Heavy didn't follow the typical path of a mainstream band, their music was a bold experiment, a mix of cultures, sounds, and voices from around the world, coming together to create something truly unique. In 2012, Damian Marley teamed up with electronic music producer Skrillex to create a powerful song called Make It Bun Dem. It was a bold mix of reggae and dubstep, blending Marley's signature vocal style with Skrillex's intense electronic beats. The track became part of pop culture when it was featured in the popular video game Far Cry 3 later that same year. Around that time, Damian also dropped a song called Affairs of the Heart, which was a massive success in Jamaica, reaching the top of the reggae charts and winning over fans with its heartfelt lyrics. 5 years later, in July 2017, Damian returned with his 4th studio album, Stony Hill. It was a deeply personal project that balanced conscious lyrics with sharp social commentary. The first single, Nail Pawn Cross, came out in August 2016 and tackled issues like racial injustice and inequality. When the full album dropped, it was clear Damian had poured his soul into the work. At the 60th Annual Grammy Awards, Stony Hill won the Grammy for Best Reggae Album, adding another important milestone to his already impressive career. If you are enjoying this video, appreciate it by giving it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Though Damian was just 2 years old when his father, Bob Marley, passed away, he has grown into one of the most innovative voices in reggae. More than any of his talented siblings, Ziggy, Sadella, Steven, or Rohan, Damian has pushed reggae in new directions. He's never been afraid to experiment, to question tradition, or to add something new to the sound. But that creative drive hasn't always been easy to understand, especially for reggae fans. Some fans were surprised, even upset when Damian opened up about where his true musical inspirations came from. When asked what he listened to growing up, his answer didn't start with Bob Marley. He said, "Dancehall music was the first music I started to buy for myself. I mean, obviously my family's music was always in the house, but people like Tyga, Shabba Ranks, Peter Mitchell, Supercat, Professor Notes, these were my heroes when I was growing up." Damian explained that as a child, he went to a lot of live concerts. Watching these dancehall legends perform on stage lit a fire in him. He said, "I would watch those guys perform, and I would say, I want to be like him, as opposed to me wanting to be like my dad. It was more like, yeah, I want to do what Shabba Ranks is doing." That passion for dancehall came with its challenges. As a teenager, he often clashed with his mother over the kind of music he wanted to make. He wanted his lyrics to be raw, to express exactly how he felt, even if that meant using curse words or being aggressive. But despite those early disagreements, Damian stayed true to himself. He blended the soul of reggae with the fire of dancehall and the energy of modern music. And through that fusion, he found his voice, one that continues to shape the sound of reggae today. Damian Marley described his music simply as a mix of dancehall and reggae. For him, these two styles are not separate. He once said, "I've noticed people trying to separate the two of them. It's Jamaican culture in general. I don't try to classify or separate." For Damian, Reggae and dancehall are just different expressions of the same roots. They both come from the heart of Jamaica, and he sees them as one cultural rhythm, different beats of the same drum. When it comes to his family, things might seem complicated from the outside. Officially, Bob Marley had 11 children, 3 with his wife Rita, 2 others from Rita that Bob adopted, and 6 with other women. That kind of family structure can easily lead people to think the children grew up distant, especially those born to different mothers. But according to Damian, that wasn't the case at all. Even though there were challenges between the adults, between the women in Bob's life, they worked hard to make sure those problems didn't affect the children. Rita, Cindy, and the other mothers made sure the Marley siblings remained connected, even if they weren't raised in the same household. Damian remembers this clearly. His older brothers and sisters would come pick him up, spend time with him on holidays, and stay close. It wasn't just his mother raising him, it was the whole extended Marley family, a blended group that was held together not by Bob, but by the women who raised his children with care and intention. Damian once said, "Our mothers were very supportive of that, of us coming together as children. That effort kept the family united. It helped the children grow with love instead of distance." Over the years, that closeness turned into deep collaborations. Stephen and Damian didn't grow up in the same house, but Stephen always played the role of the older brother. Now, as adults, those early lessons have turned into something even greater, a shared purpose, a shared sound, and a brotherhood that continues to honor the Marley name while carving out something completely their own. Damian and his brother Stephen have shared stages for more than a decade, but with their Traffic Jam tour, they took things to another level. It was their first official co-headlining tour, a journey through their long list of songs together. From Medication, a smooth anthem celebrating ganja culture, to The Mission, a powerful declaration of their goals to spread righteousness and the message of Rastafari. Another truth Damian Marley dropped is, while Bob Marley's name echoed through history, becoming a symbol known around the world, the person who shaped Damian Marley's everyday life wasn't a global icon. It was his mother, Cindy Breakspear. In the absence of his father, even while he was alive, it was Cindy who became everything. She didn't just play the role of a mother, she took on all the roles a child needs. She was the caregiver, the protector, the one who gave him strength when life felt heavy. She set rules, gave support, and made sure her son felt loved and safe. But even with all her strength, Damian's childhood wasn't simple. There was a shadow that followed them, a complicated history that others never let them forget. Cindy and Bob Marley had been together for 5 years, during a time when Bob was still married to Rita Marley. Many people judged that relationship harshly, and that judgment didn't just fall on Cindy, it touched Damian too. Now, as a grown man, Damian has finally opened up about what his mother's love meant to him. He's also spoken about the weight she carried silently, and with strength. He said, "She was everything. She made sure I didn't feel abandoned, even if he wasn't around." Cindy had once been crowned Miss World. She was elegant, confident, and full of grace. But despite all that, people often reduced her to one thing: the other woman. It wasn't a title she asked for, but it was the one people used. And no matter where she went, it followed her and her son. Damian has never spoken harshly about his father. In truth, he may not know enough about him to do that. Bob Marley died when Damian was just 2 years old. But in telling his own story, Damian has shared what it was like growing up under the shadow of a famous father, and beside a mother who had to protect him from the noise of the world. Cindy raised Damian while carrying the burden of a broken love. She did it while walking through a world that often reminded her that Bob had another home, another life, and a wife he never left. For Damian, this wasn't just background noise, it was part of his life. His identity was shaped not just by his father's fame, but by the quiet pain and fierce love of a mother who stood alone, yet stood strong. Every time Bob Marley's name came up, in a photo, in a headline, in a song, it meant something different for Damian. To the world, Bob was a hero, a legend, a king. But for Damian and his mother, all that praise came with something else: questions, pain, and a silence that followed them everywhere. Cindy Breakspear had to raise her son in the middle of that silence. She had to take all the confusion, all the judgment, and somehow build a home out of it. She gave Damian love, safety, and strength, but she was doing it alone, while the man whose name her son carried belonged to someone else. Bob Marley was a husband to Rita, a father to many, and a cultural icon. But to Damian, he was just a missing piece. Even though Bob was gone, he was everywhere. His voice was always playing, his image always showing up. The world kept celebrating him, but at home, Damian was just a boy growing up without his father. Cindy did everything she could, but there were things she simply couldn't give. Only Bob could have shown Damian what it meant to be his son, and he wasn't there to do that. Now that Damian is starting to speak up, we're finally hearing what that absence really meant. The hurt didn't just belong to him, it shaped his mother too. Cindy carried the weight for both of them, quietly, with grace. Damian grew up inside that silence, and now, after all these years, he's finally letting that silence speak. And even in the recent Bob Marley, One Love biopic, the silence remained. Cindy's role in Bob's life was quiet, almost invisible. Damian didn't appear at all. The film celebrated the legend, but once again, left out the parts that didn't fit the story. What do you think about Damian Marley's story? Let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our next video for more reggae stories.